This time I'm going to share on manifestation. And it's actually on the topic of responsibility, responsible co-creation. And co-creation can include manifestation. But we really don't even understand. I mean, people are out there making, big headlines with topics of manifestation. And you think, that's really cool, laws of abundance, laws of manifestation, laws of attraction, and so on. And some of it has value, just not all of it. Most of it doesn't have value. Most of it because any topic, I don't care who, it could be Moses, it could be Jesus, Peace Pilgrim, Mother Teresa, you or me. We all are capable of accessing source, connecting and channeling God. But equally so, we're capable of messing it up when it comes through. We're capable of taking any message and twisting it. And all too often, when those messages become mass, there's mass wonderment, mass acceptance, a lot of times that's because it's been turned to fit people's minds rather than people's minds being turned to fit the message. You see what I'm saying? And that's not necessarily bad. All it does is delay growth. If we would get the messages in their true source, we would just plug in and like, boom. But instead, we take it, we bring it way down to our level so that our enlightenment around the topic is much slower because we've taken it and downgraded it. It's called devolution instead of evolution. That's where that band got their name, Devo. It was a play on words, de-evolution. So it's about mankind's falling into, materiality. Well, the word manifestation. As soon as you hear that, people are like, oh yeah, I'm manifesting a new life, it's still stuff. Everybody's out boasting about stuff. They're still talking about stuff. I don't hear very many people, let's pretend there's 1 million people, because that's, practically how many it is that's in law of attraction, law of manifestation. Let's say it's 1 million. How many of those have I heard say, I've used the laws of manifestation and attraction to connect more with God? They talk about what stuff they're getting. I got a new job. It's still stuff. So we have to recognize even the word manifestation, man's infestation. I won't keep it there, okay? I'll raise it a little bit. But the lowest level of manifestation, man's infestation. Then you can say man invested. Manifestation, man being invested. I have agendas. I have investments in my manifestations. Most manifestations are man's infestations. Man's control, man's twisting of things that we want to bring to the world. But some of it's a little better off, and it's man being invested. But gradually, we learn to recognize responsible co-creation means manifestation is man's or my vestments, my manifestations. My vestments, not my investments, my vestments. My manifestations, my vest, the things I wear. It's when I took what's inside and wore it. In other words, I'm becoming it. Inside and out. Now, the truth is, everything that is manifested, not just in my life, but our life, everything has to come from consciousness. And we have a really hard time with that. That's why I'm calling it responsible co-creation. Because manifestation, the laws of manifestation, the laws of attraction, and so on, they still involve parts of us that we're not even in touch with, we don't even know about. So somebody can say, I'm ready to manifest a new job, and still be jobless for 3 months, 3 years for that matter, whatever it is. What we don't understand is what is manifesting comes from our consciousness. Not just your thinking, and I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. People are saying your thoughts create. No, they don't. I'm glad to be one in a million of these teachers on this topic that say wrong. It's not your thoughts. All your thoughts do is add to the power of them. They come from your beliefs. If I believe I'm worthless, all of my powerful thoughts of I deserve, are actually almost completely deflated. Sure, the more I repeat it, it might help boost it up. Kind of like, jacking up a car to be able to put a tire. It helps. But when I change my beliefs, I don't have flat tires to have to hoist the car up. It's all in our beliefs. If I know who I am, which you can spend lifetimes working on that, some people do. I'm going to get this right. I'm going to know who I am. I'm going to search, all the stories and mythology, climbing up hills, going through the Black Forest, fighting off evil characters and slaying dragons and all that. You can do all that and you'll get there because that's what you're seeking to do. Seek and you will find. So go ahead and seek yourself. It's not like the ego goes, oh, geez, now I'm up creek. They're seeking themselves. I may as well just give up. All it does is say, really, Dorothy, you know what you need? You have to go searching for a heart and a brain and so on. Then you end up Dorothy and freaky relationships called monkeys in that movie. You end up with all kinds of searches and you go, well, I didn't mind the poppies, all kinds of searches for addictions and clawing and dragging to get yourself holy. There's an easier way. Just ask the only one that does remember who you are. The good news, God never forgot who we are. God to some people sounds like that old-fashioned terminology. God, Spirit, the only true capital C creator. We're part of God, but we're like let's say an organ of God, a heart, a piece of God that has forgotten who we are. Even God, you could say, is incomplete until we return home. Not really, because God was complete before we were created, but energetically, let's say symbolically. Because God's not going to say, well, since you guys forgot who you are, I'll just go on being complete on my own. God's going to say, I'm choosing to not be complete. That's how much I love you. I love you, come home. And all the things we're doing, the search, hill and dale, rivers, valleys, mountain peaks, looking. It's just so much easier to ask the only consciousness that remembers who we are. Well, where do I find that? It's just here. It's within us. Just asking God. Not the part of you that wishes it were God, called the ego. The part that really is God. And if you don't know how to ask, you're actually better off than the people that think they know. Because not knowing means you're being humble. And that's pretty cool. There's people that have their exact methodologies. God will not enter the room until I get that certain color shirt on. God will not enter the room until I've burned candles for X number of minutes and so on and so on. That's all just ritual and ceremony. And they're hollow without consciousness. So what you really need is consciousness. You can use the tools, but the consciousness needs to be in charge of the tools. Responsible co-creation means I'm showing up, responsible. The problem is we've made responsibility into a naughty word. Responsibility means blame. Usually if your parents walked in and said, when you're a kid, who's responsible for this? You don't think that they meant who became a conscious co-creator within this experience. That's usually not what they meant. Who's responsible? And that's how we think of everything. We even think God is out to get us if we're responsible. So the problem is the ego says, this whole responsibility thing, man, it's horrendous. If you get caught, you think it's bad to get caught at school. You think it's bad to get caught by a police officer if you speed. You think it's, all these things, right? You think you know how bad it could be. Imagine God and being responsible for screwing up creation. Imagine when God finally finds you, as it doesn't know where you are, on earth for having created the separation and the division of heaven itself. I didn't do that. How do you know you didn't do it? Because I don't remember any of that. Oh, convenient amnesia. That's not going to let you off the hook. We all did this. We're all sitting here in separate bodies, which means we participated in the belief of separation. Forgiveness mends it all. The word tantra and yoga, those ancient words, those ancient concepts, those ancient teachings, both tantra and yoga mean to weave together. When you're doing yoga, you're not supposed to just go to a $1 million studio with your little leg warmers, matching leg warmers, and doing Asanas are, postures. Oh, look at me. It's just weird. People are doing these things and they don't even know. It's just bizarre. I did a lecture once for yoga people. And I brought up God. One of them just ragged me out at the end of, why did you bring God into this? God has nothing to do with yoga. I'm like, do you know anything about yoga? But now it's inconvenient to be taught that yoga has anything to do. That's like saying spirituality has nothing to do with God as well. So these people are being taught, and that's what they want to be taught. I want to do something where I can hide from God. Do not bring yoga and God into the same conversation. Yoga means to yoke yourself to God. It doesn't mean I'm going to do my little pretty postures. It's as you do them, you're calling God into your being, and you're bringing God into each posture. Because each posture is a dance saying, here I am. Fill me to the right, to the left, forward, backward, up, down. Fill me. And in Tantra, it's the same thing. Yoking yourself to God, even when in spiritual ceremony with yourself and divine, or with another. It's not like, the way people teach this. Congress, as some people call it. It's funny because the word Congress can mean having sex. So it's going to think about that. It brings a new slant to politics, doesn't it? And yet, not a surprise. But having Congress, having intercourse and so forth. This thing that, women, they go through this thing, menopause. And I've said this before, but to pause on men. To pause on masculine issues. To take a break from all the stuff. And some people go, but I don't have any. All of us know that one of the common languaging for the intimate connection of soul to soul, whether it's the same gender or opposite genders, but when you have soul to soul, names like nailing someone, screwing someone, and so on, these are not exactly sacred terms. In Tantra, these things were, they were referred to as sacred space, the woman's anatomy. Wand of light, the man's anatomy. These things were seen as sacred experiences. You didn't walk around high school saying, you're such a wand of light. You use some you use some pretty derogatory terms. And they have to do with people joining in love. It's supposed to be. Joining in love. So all of those things you've ever heard that defiled people, souls, and women are worthy of going through menopause. I have to pause on the way this has all been treated. And it's in your cells. The derogatory things, the harsh things, those terminologies. Man, I'm going to hit that. Interesting terminology. Banging and hitting. And it's like, wow. Nowhere was that in sacred culture terminology. But it's what we've brought ourselves to. What have we done? And so it stores up in people's bodies and becomes, extra processing, biochemical, or whatever you want to call it. It's part of the process. What you're really talking about is not menopause, as people think. It's brokenheartedness. It's people going through years of heartbreak. But we all contribute to this. That's why I've said so often, learn to say no. Learn to say no to people and behaviors. Shut down gossip. Not interested. Why are you telling me this evil? Go ahead and be firm about it. But hurtful things. I'm not saying we all know how and when, and you could be a child. As a kid, I heard my father and older brother, saying the grossest of things. I'm a kid. I'm not going to guys, that really defiles the divine feminine within you, and it wouldn't have gone over well. Smack, But what I did do is typically I just didn't know how to participate in that. And just my not participating, and sometimes even just a little smile, somewhere in their mind they saw a reflection that this wasn't okay. And believe it or not, all of us store up everything we ever experience. Everything, even when you do hypnosis, they can do hypnosis on you, having walked in the room for 10 seconds, and you'll remember the shirt colors of everybody in the room. You're always remembering everything. You just don't want to know you remember everything. And it's also really taxing on the brain to try to remember everything. but everything registers. So when I gave those people a different response, somewhere in their mind, it tagged them. It said, there's another way. You follow? Just like hurtful comments tag people and store up, so do the opposite. So learn to be the opposite. Be the presence of the opposite. Saying alternative kinds of ideas to people, a different way of doing things, including manifestations. Infestations is what people have done. No, I'm not excited about your boasting your infestations. That doesn't impress me. But are you using it to say, I'm learning to connect with God and wear new vestments? I'm wearing a new consciousness, one where I'm a co-creator with God. Now, if I advertise that, if I say that now and it goes viral, everybody in the world's talking about it, it's all about manifestation. Don't manifest, infestations, manifest new spiritual vestations. Whoa, new buzz phrases. Michael, But it wouldn't help if we don't understand this concept of responsibility. And what's even more challenging is you can't learn responsible co-creation with God until you take responsibility for the miscreations without God. So we all want to create a new life, but technically you have to own the one that wasn't so good. You have to own where I have manifested ego, where I manifest fear. I'm going to share a couple of quotes I brought out with me, but one of them, to know others means you are wise. To know yourself, you are enlightened. Another, Carl Jung, I always like this one. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakens. So when you look outside towards I want my infestations, I want my outer stuff, then you actually become part of the dream, meaning it's illusion. When you want to connect with reality and wake up, you have to recognize your creations from the inside. People that create on the outside, I'm going to get a new car, they're talking about external stuff that isn't really there. So how enlightened, how in touch are they if they're talking to us about all the cool stuff? They can even have records of, world records on how many things they manifested per day, week, month, whatever. I have a Guinness Book of World Record, the person that manifested the most things through conscious thinking, just moving, thought, manifested. I have a helicopter, I have 5 houses and so on. Very cool. But all you've done is move illusions around. Because none of them are real. It's only real co-creations with God. It's manipulative when it's not with God. Back to the word manipulative, but I won't go there right now. But with God, it's creative. If I want to be a creator, return to being a creator, I have to be a co-creator, and it's with God. It means to do things with God, to yoke yourself to God. And then manifest. Not use your brain power cutting off from God and doing I want. It's I am. Well, how does I am become a car? I want a car. I really want one. So I want to get a car. So let me do I want a car. I'm now manifesting a car. Ooh, nicer words. Still ego. Because you haven't come from the I am. I am means how could I not have one? Knowing who I am, it's easy. Because I am part of God and I am very holy. And today I would like to drive to the Pacific Coast, which is 8 hours away or whatever, instead of walk. And since I am part of God, it's okay. I'm allowed to have beautiful, luxurious things. I'm allowed to drive to the coast instead of walking. The old school, we have to be tormented and punished and so on. And that's again an ego trip and an ego trick, which says, if you want to change your life, the ego would rather you not go there, but if you're going to, then you really want to go there? Okay, the ego says. You want to become a co-creator? Great. Are you sure? Because if you try to become a co-creator, all of those naughty things you've done are going to come to the surface. And they will. It's telling you the truth there. The only problem is it's telling you the truth that those things will come to the surface, but it's also telling you should be afraid of those things and embarrassed and ashamed of those things. That's where it's lying. Because both God and the ego are standing at the end of your path in life saying, come on, go ahead, come on. Both want you to move in the direction of changing your life. One wants to change your life, which looks like change, but it's a road that ends up coming back around again. The other, you break through the barrier at the end. But both of them are saying there's a barrier you're going to be hitting soon. God says keep going through the barrier. You know, this is like any of those old initiation stories or movies where you walk through the fire and you're told, remember, the fire is not real. And so the hero has to finally walk through the fire. Well, that's not easy to do. It's called faith. Can I really go to the end of today's path and walk through fire? Can I, if I'm flying, could I really fly through a brick wall? Would I trust it? Or at some point I'm going to realize my beak's going to end up on my toes. It's not going to work out very well. I'm just going to splatter, flatten. I'm getting closer and closer. I can even feel the wall I'm about to fly into. And Spirit's saying, the wall is your belief in separation. The wall is your belief that you're no longer one with me. And it's not true. I told you it's not true. Keep flying. The ego's going, you see the wall's getting bigger. That's all the wall. And you can feel the presence of the wall. The ego's telling you don't go there. So the ego's going to say, if I were you, I would turn away from your growth. I would turn away from your new beliefs in your new life. You want to change your life, your consciousness. You want to transform yourself. Really. So as soon as you do that, both are telling the truth. There seems to be a wall. And the wall is typically our guilts and shames. That's all. But guilts and shames are just things that we're alluding to. They're not real. They're just opinions. Well, no, they're not opinions. Those are my real guilts and shames. I would like to manifest a new life, but I'll only manifest little bits because I don't want to upset the ego. I don't want to let the ego know I'm making too many changes. And that's not the courageous path. So you're better off saying, God, I'm going to have to rely on you to tell me who I am. And I'm going to fly at that wall. If the wall somehow is real, and I have a suspicion it's not, if it is somehow real, then in fact I will splatter on the wall and I'll come back and I'll do it again. That's the worst case scenario. But if I run from the wall in fear, I'm already in hell. So I have two options, and that's what it means. The swan song, man. Die courageously. Die well. Die knowing that you're doing what you need to do, even if it means looking at stuff. You know, if you go into a doctor with a really horrible, congestion of some kind, and you've been a heavy smoker forever and a day, and they say, do you smoke? No. Me? No. In fact, I'm a personal trainer, so I would never want to be a smoker, because of what you think it'll look like. It's better you hack out part of a lung and laugh at it and say, isn't this funny? A personal trainer, and I still had a weakness that I felt funny about. And there it is. Just stepping up and owning it. The idea in all these journeys and all these stories and mythologies we hear about the slaying of the dragon and the rescuing of the damsel. Guys, it's a metaphor. The slaying of the dragon means looking at our own stuff. Confront the dragon. What's the dragon? Oh, it's evil. What evil? Them. Even the Crusaders took a little bit of time trying to decimate Jews. Because in their heads, they went, well, let's see. We're crusaders for the Lord. The Lord was crucified by the Jews. Let's kill the Jews. You can't ever do these things righteously because you're talking about outer things. Whatever you think others have done and you want to destroy them for it, you're failing already because you think it's a them. Even if their behaviors are off, you still have to come back here and look at what it means in you. What does this mean to me? If there's a group that I don't like, what do they symbolize in me? If there's an archetype, a stereotype, it doesn't matter what kind it is. A color, a tribe, a feeling, a certain music kind of lover, whatever it is. What does it symbolize inside of myself? So we cannot become positive, responsible co-creators without first owning what we miscreated, is what I'm leading to. So you can't just go, I'm going to be a responsible being. It's almost like 12 steps would teach you. You have to first look at where you've been irresponsible in an unhealthy kind of way. But you're still responsible. Please, it's hard, I know, to take off the interpretation, blame. But all it is I was responsibly creating with God or I was leaving God out of the picture. Either way, I'm responsible. Well, what if there's things I don't know how I created? What if I have a racial certain disposition. Let's say I have Italian blood in me, or I have a particular racial energy. I'm talking about genetically. And let's say I was part of a certain group on the planet that was really aggressive, hurtful to other people, whether it was one civilization or one domineering civilization or whatever. If you have some of that blood, you can obsess on that and say, I'm bad, naughty, whatever. But you can also recognize, okay, if that's there, what can I do about it? If I change some energy that I've been handed genetically, if I change that, do you understand that it's going to actually upload to all of history of that particular genetic? If I have a genetic disposition for an illness, and I bring consciousness to that illness, anybody with that illness is going to be affected on some level. Until the day enough of us do it, the illness will not exist. But you can't run from the dispositions. You can't run from them and pretend you're more spiritual. You bring light, God, to them. Even poverty. Well, I'm trying to be prosperous, but my family, generation after generation, poverty, you're carrying some racial memory, some genetic memory. So you can go rob a bank and say, look, I broke the trend. I have money. They didn't. That's not how you can't break it on the outside. You break it on the inside by changing beliefs. So a couple more quotes from A Course in Miracles. Our power of decision is the determiner of every situation in which we seem to find ourselves by chance or by accident. No accident or chance is possible within the universe of God, as God created it, outside of which there is nothing. So there is nothing but God, and in God there's no possibility of random things and chance. So the power of choice is my own. Course in Miracles workbook lesson. The power of decision is my own. It means the power of choice. We're told this then. Your greatest gift, all of us, especially as we know ourselves in this universe, your greatest number one gift is what? Oh, the law of attraction. No. Your greatest gift is what? It's this and this and this and this, whatever. No. Your greatest gift is choice. Free will. And then we don't even understand that, and we pervert the definition of free will and choice. And we have the right and choice to do that. But the truth is, as long as you're misusing free will, thinking you're using free will to not be one with God, then you're not freely using your will. As long as you're going under the hypnosis of the ego, you're no longer free. So free will does not mean being a jerk on planet Earth. I have free will. I can do whatever I want. That's not free will. Believe it or not, free will is a spiritual concept, and you can't twist it into free will to do hurtful things. Free will means when I am free of the ego's will, lowercase w, and choosing God's will, capital W. Free will means this. Once upon a time, you and I allowed ourselves to believe, because we have the choice to believe anything. We chose to believe that we could separate from God and from each other and become individuals, survival of the fittest. So, your greatest gift is free will, because at any moment in your life, you can choose again. You chose once to come into separation and separate from God, and now it is everybody's inevitable decision will be to choose to go back. We chose to fall, we'll choose to rise. We chose to be separate, we will eventually choose oneness. The only question is, why delay? Because the word responsibility. Wait a minute, what was the first problem again? We chose what? Anybody? To separate. Wait a minute, who did that? Why did you do that? You know what you've done? Responsibility. When we forgive, we'll feel safe enough to step back into responsibility again. You can't forgive without responsibility. You can't be responsible without ultimately understanding forgiveness. So I need to forgive everything for what I thought it was. Because everything in this three-dimensional universe, the manifested world, the infested world, it's infested with our miscreations, with the beliefs that A, we separated, and B, we're going to pay for it. So the ego is saying, as long, you want me to help you? Yes. You want me to keep you out of pain? Yes. You want me to keep you away from God? Because you know God's going to slam you when he finds you. Please don't let that happen. All right. This is like making a deal with just a horrible mobster. All right, I'm going to cover you. I'm going to make sure God never finds you. Really? You can do that? Absolutely. Because the ego knows, as long as I keep you from taking responsibility for believing you separated, you'll never go home. As long as you never go home, I get to exist. So the ego's plan is to scare us out of taking responsibility. How? Obviously, put blame to it. Don't put freedom to the word responsibility. Put blame. Put a negative connotation. Everybody will keep running from it. So you and I have been programmed in one of the worst, if not the worst, program. The first and worst is going to be that we believe we're separated. But the lack of responsibility is next to that. Perhaps the worst of all of our programming. Not easy to break, but you try it. If I think, okay, Michael told me I need to live dangerously and just step up. I'm going to go out here and try this. Okay, God, I'm sorry. I've been a bad boy and girl. I'm responsible for my separating from you, and I'm probably responsible for everything that's ever gone wrong in the world. The Chicago fire and London bridges falling down, and it was all me, I guess, according to Michael. That's not actually how you do it. Instead, you go, hey, God, this is so bizarre. I'm afraid of you, and yet you're the presence of love. So this is really bizarre. It's like telling a joke. Have you heard the one about the two angels? And it's like you're delivering a joke. It's okay to say, I'm so sorry I bought into this. I thought I was bad. I thought I was wrong. I thought I was guilty. I thought I was ashamed. Any association you have. And I'm giving it all to you, and I'm asking you to lift it all out of all false beliefs out of me and show me who I really am. Show me what I really believe, my real beliefs, who I am, my real identity. Another analogy I've shared many times, guys, the human ego, the ego that we have is telling us, if you ever have intimidation of being dragged into a courtroom, it's going to be that times 1,000,000,000,000 to go and face God in the spiritual courtroom. You don't understand how bad you've been. You think speeding is a drag. And the penalties. Separating all consciousness from God, taking all and causing all human beings, all beings, to splinter off into becoming humans and they die. And you're responsible for people dying. Do you realize you're responsible for children abuse? Do you realize you're responsible for war? This is way too heavy. But you have to have the courage to say, bring it all on. Bring it on. Bring it on. Go ahead. Bring it all on. I don't care what topic. Really? You're responsible for Hitler. Bring it on, bring it on, bring it on, bring it on. Because when I go in the courtroom, I'm going to plead insanity. And that's all you're supposed to do. We're told, okay, look, if you're going to be spiritual, the ego acts like it's your buddy. All right, fine. I give up. If you're going to be spiritual, I'll tell you how to get home. You're going to still have to go in the courtroom because there's a wall. God and the ego both know it. But God's saying you can fly through it. The ego's saying you can't. So I'm going to have to go to that courtroom, and I'm scared. But the ego says, all right, if you're going to do it, I'll tell you how to do it. When you walk in, be perfect. Be willing to show the judge you've done no wrong. You've not done or said anything wrong, and you have no responsibility for the crime. That's all I got to do? Yes. And you know what that's called? Reincarnation. That's what it is. So you bought into something called reincarnation, cycling around and around and around and around. There's a value and a non-value to reincarnation. The value is learn from what you need to learn, heal the stuff because it's rooted in the past, and you're using the excuse that I don't remember it as though that makes you, clean and clear. Go ahead and bring those past lives forward and heal them. Also, however, go the next mile, as we could say. Take what gifts you have from previous lives and bring them into manifestation. Our human ego doesn't want any of that happening. It doesn't want you healing anything, past or present. It doesn't want you healing it, and it certainly doesn't want you accentuating or bringing forward the gifts you got from it. Spirit's saying, we want you to heal everything, past, present, or even what would have been in the future, and we also want you to bring forth your gifts. What if I have gifts from a past life and I don't know what those gifts are? a gift or gifts? How can I bring them forward? So that's that constant buffering that the ego does to keep us from knowing our true selves. You can't really be responsible as a being without knowing thyself. Know thyself. That's why Lao Tzu said. To know others, yeah, wow, good job. To know yourself, you're enlightened. How do you do that? Without responsibility. All these words are synonymous. Forgiveness, responsibility, know thyself. They all go hand in hand. So yeah, you go into the courtroom and you say, I'm pleading insanity. By that, what I'm saying is, if ever I did anything, it could not have come from my God self. If it did not come from my God self, how could it be real? Therefore, it was an act of insanity. Forgive me, Lord, I knew not what I was doing. The judge, the God, has one response to that. Case dismissed. Now, of course, the ego's like, what do I do now? It's just, it's just powerless. Why was it powerless? Because you rendered the ego powerless when you took responsibility. It told you you're going to be powerless when you take responsibility, because when you take responsibility, it means you took the blame and you get punished and you're powerless to the punishment. It's all flip-flopped. It's all opposite. It's like opposite day on planet Earth for billions of years. So it's all a fib. It's all a lie. So instead, we realize, how do I heal? How do I rid myself of all this? Don't try to perfect yourself in the courtroom. And that's what we tried to do with lifetimes. This lifetime, I'm going to make sure I don't make mistakes. Dang it. As soon as you got out and got your butt swatted, you're like, who in the hell was that? This doctor, do I know you? It's like you're already angry at somebody and then you're like, oh, I slipped. Got to come back again. And then, you have to be the mystic. It's hanging upside down, swat on the butt from the doctor. You're like, chill, look at me, no reaction, till they get you home and you realize who your parents are, and then triggered again. So you're going to go around and around, and where it stops, nobody knows. So it's better just to say, I totally get it. That's what Buddha said. I get it. What do you get? It's a wheel of illusion. Cycles, just cycles of games. They're things that we made up. And that's where our power comes from. The power of decision is my own. The power of choice making is my own. So my power comes from owning who I really am. Owning that I thought I was someone else. You got to own that. Got to own the lie before you own the truth. I own that I thought I was this. See, go ahead and go into a 12-step program. If all you ever do is keep trying to not be an alcoholic and you don't understand God's role in giving you the power to work on that, you're still missing something. You're still fighting. You can't do just one or the other. Instead, you own you've made mistakes. But it's not bad on me. It's I own. I knew not what I was doing. Why was I an addict of whatever kind? Was that the God in me? No. Then what was going on? It's a part of me that forgot who I am and I needed to numb myself or stimulate my being in some way to pick me up or take me down or whatever. They're all they are is adaptations to lies, the lies of myself. So the ultimate is we forgot who we are and we allowed the ego to cover our tracks and never have to own that or deal with that. The solution is go ahead and walk into that. Go ahead and step up, take responsibility, and then all of a sudden you start realizing another quote from the Course. I am responsible for what I see. I choose the feelings I experience and I decide on the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I have asked for and received just as I have asked. Now it sounds kind of cool and empowering, but you have to really sit with that. Everything. Everything. You mean the things I don't like? No. Everything. Everything. Somehow things are reflecting my beliefs. Now that the ego's going to tell you that just made you a more horrible person. Because now not only did horrible things happen to you, you're the one who drew them to you. You're not so cool. You're horrible. Walk through that wall, man. Fly through that wall. Keep going. Don't believe what it's telling you to get you to turn back from going straight through. Because straight through is God and love and everything you're really looking for ultimately. Everything's, just an echo of the voice of God. Everything's, about getting back to that place called God. But the ego is trying to distract us. Call it evil or ego or devil, anything you want. But even the ego is another one of our dreamt up things that we made up. So why can't I get that raise at work? Okay, I'm going to make it happen, make it happen, make it. That's not the cure. I have to first own that I'm the one who decided I didn't deserve it. Then access the part now that does. You see what I'm saying? Both sides of the coin. But wait a minute, how do I take responsibility? I had 3 partners. All of them cheated on me. All of them took all my money out of the bank account, charged up the cards, and split. Always for prettier or handsomer, younger things than me. So how's that anything to do with me? I didn't say you caused them to do what they do, but you play a part. Because on some level, believe it or not, deep inside, even an infant's soul, you have lifetimes. Deep inside, there's something in every one of us that says, I am less than God created me to be. And you know what comes with that? An emotion to reflect that belief. What kind of emotion do you think you're going to have with, I'm separate from God? I mean, there would be like maybe guilt, maybe lesser than. That's how I might feel as soon as I tune into what it's like to be separate from God. I feel scared. I feel lonely, right? Wouldn't you feel lonely if you're separate from love? Yes or no? Yes. So now you're in a relationship. Do you think it can last forever? No, because that wouldn't reflect loneliness. You have to attract people that are going to leave you and leave you alone because you feel alone. Everything that's going to happen on the outside is just mirroring the inside. Now again, that's going to tempt me to go, oh great! So I guess I shouldn't even date because I have all these issues to work on, which aren't my fault. And my parents did that to me. And again, and I know, and I'm sorry about that, and I love you, and I get it. I know it hurts, and I know they did, and this and that and the other. But you cannot reach enlightenment. You cannot responsibly grab hold of enlightenment until you responsibly take hold of all the unenlightened things. Buddha's awakening, part of his awakening was, I get it. We play a part in everything that's happening to us. But people downplay that message of his. We all play a part. That's why when they said, some of his disciples, well, how come people abuse you, Buddha? You're wonderful, you're enlightened, you teach love. He says, because there were other lifetimes when I wasn't so loving. See, now why don't we do that more often? Why don't you spout your Buddhist stuff more often like a good 12-stepper? Go ahead and talk oneness, but also talk about how you played a part in your life. One of our great 12-steppers here that passed away a few years back, I was talking with her and a couple of people, and some of them were talking about, God, my life, and my parents just taught me this and the programs I got from my family. And so she was finally going to share something. And I said, so what happened for you? Meaning like this is what everybody's sharing. We're just talking right outside the door there. And so since they're saying, my family made this, I became an alcoholic because of my mother and all this. I said, and what about you? She said, no, I did this all by myself. And I just went, wow. That's enlightenment, guys. That's enlightenment. That's just beautiful. Because she wasn't beating herself up with that. She was just saying, even with a loving family, I rebelled and became an addict. I ruined my life. I did this and that. It sounds negative, but I'm telling you, the negative is that wall, and when you fly through those negatives, you find oneness with God. It's just brilliant. It's just beautiful. Perfect. But we all have to find that courage. I'm ready to manifest a new life. You don't have to own the details. You just have to own that you played a part. You don't have to say, okay, fine, so if I can't get a raise at work, I got to figure out exactly what lifetime and what childhood wound caused. I'm not saying that. You just have to own that you played a part. All you have to say is, I get it. I know there must be part of me that believes this or this wouldn't happen. For example, if I want to make it as general as possible, there's a part of me that believes I'm separate from God, or else I wouldn't age. I wouldn't have any kind of conflict in my body. Let's say you have rheumatoid arthritis in your hip. That's not so fun. It's terrible. But you're not bad for it. You don't have to psychoanalyze the arthritic condition. But what we do know is our beliefs in separation take a toll on this body, and the body's not even real. All it is a place of manifesting things that we missed otherwise. Even when we had horrible relationships. All you did was hire actors that played the role. Who are you? Who are you really? Every lifetime you're coming in and they ask, who are you? Yes, we use terminology like Akashic Records. So it's like they take out your folder. Okay, welcome, come on in. We're just organizing your new life. Let's see. It looks like you've done really well with such and such. You're going to have some good financial karma. Good job, because you've given and you took care of the poor and the needy. Good, you're going to have wealth. Good job. Oh, relationships. I'm sorry. Oh, wow. You better sit down. This is going to take a while. Wow. You run from relationships and you do this and you blame people from abandoning you, and to keep them from abandoning you, you have this propensity to abandon them first. Brilliant strategy. So they go through and they look at this and they're preparing your next lifetime. That's kind of how it goes. But it's not actually files and reading like that. It's really all in a vibration that's heard, interpreted. It's this frequency. Welcome, come on in. Who are you? And it downloads. Your Akashic records are nothing but the downloaded vibrations of consciousness. It's hard to kind of understand, so we put it in three-dimensional terms. There's a file. And you come in and you live out those files and records. So what are we going to do about this? So who are you? And when you say, here's who I am, you actually can't lie. The who are you, it's a frequency that is you, and it emanates, and they help to use that to manifest something. So if you say major abandonment with men, it's not like they intellectually go, well, we're going to do it, but we use that metaphor. In truth, what happens is the answer is already there vibrationally. Who are you? And coming from a frequency of truth, it's the lowercase t, but it's you, as you know yourself. I have abandonment issues with males. So what happens next? You are naturally attracted to a family where the dad's going to split. You follow? They don't say, you've been bad, we're going to give you a family where you don't deserve a dad. That's not how this is done. The issues manifest as things. The issues already become, because outer vestments are coming from consciousness. Is that making sense? Everything. There's not one freckle that isn't somehow perfect based on the vibration of who you believe you are. So, as Buddha said, and this also is understated way too often, everybody thinks Buddha, let go of everything, don't have this, don't have that, don't have money, Buddha says anything you have abundance of. It could be attractiveness, a gift of speech, it could be wealth. He says, whatever you have, why would I tell you to throw it away? If you have it, it's because you've earned it from good work you've done. Why would I shame that? But whatever you do have, use to bring people closer to the light. Use your money to help people come forward to the light. Even if you're attractive, don't shame yourself for that. Nice job. Nice job. And how are you using that? If you use it to hook people into your insecurities, if you use it to hook people into financial scams and so forth, not so good. And there's going to be karma around that. Use that which you have, and then even more is given. So we don't need to shame the world. We just need to change how we interact with it. It all comes back to who are you? And who am I manifests as I'm going to work on strength. I'm a really strong person. I'm going to bring that through and speak with confidence when I'm a coach on the field with kids, or when I'm a parent or whatever. I'm going to come across confident. Now, if I don't have that somewhere in my history, I'm going to be given things to learn to work on that this lifetime so I can now have them. Make sense? But if I have had that in other lives, Spirit's going to say, you know that strength you had as a leader over here or here? Yes, we really could use a bit of that. Would you mind bringing that through? Because we're going to have you live here and change that town with your conviction and strength. We're going to have you change that building, that city, that family, whatever it is. But recognizing nothing can happen by chance. And it's heavy stuff sometimes to explain and to hear, I know. But nothing happening by chance. But instead of going, oh, brother, that's heavy, take it like, wow. Wow, like really try to turn that into a major aha. It gives you freedom, free will. If I use free will, I get more freedom from it. So I realized, like an example of my family, we didn't connect at all. And so I can go, God, one time I just finally went, if I could push a button and be back in that family or not, what would I do? And you think, if only it weren't for those guys, I would be. I'll tell you something. Not connecting with them actually taught me independence. So those people did this to me. They didn't love me. Okay, factually it's true. But the point is, why did I attract them? And you start realizing, not to blame yourself, because I'm going, okay, why? It's very simple, guys. I can see the value of having a family that had nothing to do with me. I'm not excusing it. I'm not pretending. I actually see the value. Had I been more like them, the way they are with each other, but not me, I would still live in the same block. They all still live in the same block. There's like 5 of them. And they all still live on the same street. Right? Wow. As soon as I could, I got out of there. But what I'm saying is, if I would have been more as a kid, gosh, why don't you love me like you do each other? Why can't I be part of the family? It's a bummer. It's a hard thing for a kid. But when I was done, I was gone. And that contributes to part of how I teach. Freedom and independence and clarity and so on. Is that all making sense? Have the courage to ask yourself, not excusing blames, not pretending they're not there. I'm saying, do your best to dialogue with yourself a little bit. Just make believe, or what they say in the 12-step programs, in a sense, how did I play a part? So in a sense, you're looking for that. Like, if I've been in 5 relationships that left me, is that good? No. Was that selfishness? Yeah, kind of selfish of them. That's fine. We know that. I'm asking the payoff. In what way might you have played a part in that? And you might realize, oh my God, I had a psychic reading and they said I was a nun in another lifetime. And nuns have a real issue with having male partners. I said male partners. So they have a real issue with, but they have a real issue with male partners. And it's not good or bad. I'm saying if I'm a nun and I'm carrying the program, I'm not going to have an easy time with partnerships. And I'm not excusing the way my 5 male partners treated me. What I'm saying is, I can see where I planted that little seed underneath it, that I'm uncomfortable. So in a sense, they picked that up. You see what I'm saying with that? Look for how you played a part. Look for how, I've had people come and, Michael, I'm praying for my illness to be healed. And, and they talk about all the illness. But then, what's behind that illness? All too often I've seen people who absolutely hate the medical profession. What a better place for them to be than in a hospital bed. It's the coolest thing. It's like you get to live your hell. Not because it's a bad place. You have issues with them. So you have to step into that space and be brought to your healing. Because they're not good nor bad. They're just here to reflect whatever's going on inside of you. The world is just reflecting our belief systems, whatever those belief systems might be. So just practice breathing, stepping into responsibility, and watching for the freedom that comes from it. At first, it's an inconvenient reality check. I want to believe that something went wrong because my boss won't pay me. That's why I don't have a raise. But it could be a monk in another lifetime took vows of poverty. It could be that when I was a kid, we didn't have money, and as soon as I started getting a job and having money, my family shamed me. Oh, look at you. You think you're better than us because you have a job. Oh, sorry. I'll now go into joblessness like the rest of you. Aren't we a wonderful family? We do this. We will actually forego our higher good so that we don't stand out. It's sad, but it's true. And that's why responsibility can step in and help save the day. What am I really learning here? Responsibility. I allowed these people to shame me out of becoming prosperous so I would feel more comfortable by, losing that and being part of them. But wait a minute. I'm going to fly through that wall, even if they aren't on the other side, even without their approval. Say goodbye to the false, the lies, the patterns that aren't really part of God. You've got to own that stuff and say goodbye to it and keep on soaring through to the real life, the truth. Let's take a few centering breaths, please. Just unwinding a little bit. Every one of us has played a role of being a victim in one way or another on this planet. And just remember, victims never take responsibility, because you can't be responsible and a victim at the same time. I'm not shaming that we have felt people have been hurtful to us, but I am saying we have a choice. I forgot. Relaxed, centered breaths. And let's just imagine the presence of God like a beautiful mist of golden light in the heavens. Subtle mist. Just floating, waiting for someone to connect with it. Waiting to be brought into activity, to be anchored into the earth plane as co-creations. And like in that courtroom, spiritual courtroom of life, we think we have to perfect ourselves to be worthy of that light. And we were taught this, especially through religions, lifetime after lifetime. Many hundreds of thousands of years. Beyond what science accepts our existence to be. It's been a billion years of thinking we needed to become deserving. But we already are. And the only way we can realize we are is to say, all that I thought I was and wasn't. Really, I wasn't those things. I'm bringing to the altar of God. All the positives and negatives. What I thought were my successes, I put on the altar. What I thought were my failures, I put on the altar. Being male or female. Having had children or barren womb. Married, not married. Gay, straight. Every identification. I know nothing. And I put them on the altar of truth. Making room for this mist to now gently descend into me. It gently descends through my crown and into my being, and it's so healing. It's so active. It's a mist that seems to move very casually, but it knows what it's doing. So it's moving through me and it's unwinding tensions. It's unwinding stuff lodged in my glands and my chakras. It's unwinding my spine. It's unwinding my false belief systems, including my judgments of myself or others. Most of my judgments come when I'm upset inside. This mist helps calm me, and in this calmness there is no presence of judgment. It's an immunity from judging. Rather than fighting judgments, I become immune to judging. Calmness, spirit presence. And in this calm spirit presence, I am that I am. And I give thanks to you, God, that I am as you've created me to be. I am. As God created me, I am the Christ on earth. I will to be. I will to remember. I will to be courageous. I will to be a co-creator. I will to release all sense of guilt and shames. And I feel so humbly holy that I will all the same goodness to all people in the world. I don't discern which ones deserve it. Everyone equally throughout time. No matter who they were, no matter what they've done, pros or cons, all of them, I will everyone to be whole and one with God, and with myself, and with each other. And I give thanks in advance that this is so true and powerful that I can even feel genetic changes in ancestors and also downloading into children and the children's children. The gifts of love. And then gently feeling a sense of gratitude. And then gradually stretching out when you're ready. Nice. Good.